Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the dev server having a look at a new ground vehicle which is coming in for France. It's the AMX-32 105 and this is my pick for the update, which may be surprising to a lot of people, you know, with the good old MiG-29, the F-16 and also the Tornado coming in. Everybody's going, oh look at the missiles, you know, look at the mobility, look at the bombs, look at all of this. And for me, I'm just sat here going, thank God I have another vehicle to grind out for the France high echelon, because if you didn't know, when it comes to France, they have a really good tech tree. I feel like it's undervalued by a lot of players. The rank 2 is fantastic. We don't talk about the rank 1. This is what we call a baptism of fire. So if you get through this, you get the good. Rank 2 is great, rank 3 is great, rank 4 is great, rank 5 is great. Rank 6 is great, you've got easily the best 8.0 and 8.3s in the game, and then at top tier at 11.0, I mean, the Leclercs are good, but, you know, you don't really have too much going on, you know, it needs a few more light tanks and things like that. But one of the major issues with the French tech tree is from 9.0 to 10.0, you basically got bupkis. You have 1 MBT lineups as you go along, and they're just not good enough at all. If you compare like the 9.7 lineup for France, comparing it to something like, you know, Germany has like at least 3 MBTs plus the Puma, the Baglette Panzer, there's a few AAs in there as well, the Ocelot which turns up, and then all you have is an AMX-40. And the AMX-32 and 9.3, think about the Soviets, T-64B I think it is, T-72A, you've also got the BMP-2M around that BR as well. And what do you have for France? That's right, a standard AMX-32. So any vehicle which is added to this BR, I'm just happy to see, because it means that you can finally run more lineups for France at these BRs, which, you know, didn't exist beforehand. Now, what's the difference between the AMX-32 105 and the AMX-32? Well, there's only really one difference. The first one is this one, at least mine, is set up in an 80s style, where this is set up in what we would class as a 2010 style. But the other difference is, of course, the gun. The standard AMX-32 that's in the game right now has access to a 120mm GIAT CN 120-25G1, whereas the AMX-32 105 has a 105mm CN 105 F1 cannon. So that's pretty much it. Everything else about it is exactly the same. It means that it's also 2 tons lighter, because it doesn't have to deal with the larger caliber gun. The engine is the same. Everything else about it is the same. For some reason, the 105 has slightly less ammunition when it comes to its 7.62mm, which is found here. But everything else is exactly there. So you got the 20mm coaxial, which makes the French vehicles a lot of fun to play around these BRs. You have, of course, the 4-man crew, the driver in the front, the loader, and then the gunner and the commander with fire control systems. You got the first stage ammo stowage in the back of the turret, so if they overpen or go through your turret, then you're just going to die, which kind of sucks. And then you have the 800 horsepower engine to move around this vehicle, plus a transmission which, as you can see, is not just set up to go forwards in true French style, it's also set up to go backwards. This transmission is just fantastic, and once again, it's very similar, if not the same, as the one on the standard 32. This one has got me out of so many jams in the past. There's also this fuel tank here, which is really good for soaking rounds, and will save you a few times while playing this vehicle. The armor is nothing to write home about, you know, 35 on the front, which is heavily sloped, and then the lower glacis of only 60. The turret is really easy to go through. You've got a huge cupola at the top, which can get overpressured if you're unlucky, but the main thing, or the main thing that's part of your survivability, is the mobility of the vehicle, and also being able to get the first shot off, which is quite easy to do with this. You know, you have access to the thermals for the gunner, which is quite nice. You have access to, as we said, the good transmission. You got the laser rangefinder, and also a gun stabilizer for that 105, which is something that a lot of these French vehicles don't have, which is why they're kind of stuck at like 8083, when if they had a stabilizer, they would be much higher, which is why I really like the vehicles. So with the 2-plane stabilizer, it gets access to an APF-SDS shell at rank 2 of the vehicle. This is where the two vehicles differ slightly where it comes to where their modifications are, but it's now not too hard to get the APF-SDS for this. It pens 361, 305, 209 respectively. It's the standard OFL 105F1 that you've seen before on many of the other vehicles, and from a slight change to the norm actually compared to other vehicles around this BR, it doesn't get a stock heat FS shell, and instead gets a stock heat shell because it's French. No matter what type of chemical munition you have as a stock shell at this BR, it's always going to be painful. This one is incredibly painful as well, so that sucks, but at the end of the day, what you're going to do, at least the APF-SDS isn't rank 4. You know, there has been a little bit of mercy put on this vehicle. It does also have access to smoke grenades, 6 of them in total, so you're able to use them, 3 on either side, as you can see here. So there's also that. The AMX-32 has access to all the cool camos that the good old French have access to. One of the things I like about the camos for France is a lot of them have a ton of kind of contrast to them, very bright and very like loud colors in them, such as the 4-rad one, and then also the 3-tone carc, which is a classic, and the tricolor, which at least for me is one of my favorite camos in the game. The simple thing about this is, you know how we talk a lot about gap fillers and how a lot of vehicles are kind of needed in the game to fill certain areas. This is one of those which has been needed for a long time, and the fact that it's now in, the fact that it is finally put in the game is just fantastic to see. You can see here it's got Gen 1 thermals. The optics are not great, but they're doable, and it's got the 20mm as well to use it around, which is quite cool. Then you have access to, you know, the decent round. The reload is pretty standard for this style of vehicle, and the mobility of it is really the bit that I like the most. The French tech tree is just fun. There's a lot of great vehicles in it, and I think it just gets let down by a lot of its high-tier stuff. And the more that they can add to the area to make it more competitive, the better, at least I think, it will be. We always hear a lot about, you know, the major nations getting a bunch of stuff being ultra competitive and being the best to play, but France has a lot of bright sparks in it. Just like how Italy does with its propeller aircraft, France has it with its mid-tier ground as well. There's a lot of the game to enjoy in War Thunder. There's a lot of different stuff to get into, to have a bit of fun with, and the AMX-32 105 kind of shows that France has some too. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.